Welcome to the EdexLive podcast by the New Indian Express. On this episode of the EdexLive podcast, we're joined by Nitina Dua, Executive Head of the Career Guidance Center at Shiv Nadar School. With over 2 decades of experience in shaping young minds and futures, Nitina has been at the forefront of helping students navigate the complex and ever-changing landscape of global higher education. From demystifying admissions processes and visa challenges to championing inclusion, mental health, and future readiness, Nitina leads with compassion, clarity, and foresight. Today, she shares her insights on how students can stay resilient amidst shifting policies, rising costs, and new pressures while making choices that truly align with their aspirations. Welcome, Nitina. It's an absolute pleasure to have you today. How are you doing?
Thank you, and the pleasure is truly mine too. I'm really excited and looking forward to the questions that are going to come to me today.
Wonderful. So let's jump right in. Over the years of guiding students through complex decisions, what do you think are some of the core principles or personal experiences that have shaped your approach to career counseling and mentorship in general?
Honestly, my approach is rooted in my own experience. Way back in our times, we didn't really have structured guidance while we were growing up. And I remember how overwhelming it felt. That is what drives me to be the person I once needed myself. I think for a lot of us, careers have happened by chance, not by choice. And today, as we navigate and we help our students navigate their choices, it's important that you give them a journey from exploration to elimination. If it is structured, they truly do find their path. Three things, if I have to point out what has shaped me of how I work. First, I always keep the student at the center. No matter when a student steps into high school, there are a lot of people who are an equal stakeholder in a student's life journey. I truly try to figure out what is their story, what are their values, and what is the pace that they're moving in with. While the world is moving at a very fast pace, well, let me tell you, each student moves at a very different pace. So to recognize that, hold on to it, and kind of have an individualized career plan for them makes it a little more easier. The second thing, what I truly look at is I focus on purpose. Now, you might be wondering, that's a very big word for a high school student, but students do surprise you. It's not just a career path, it's more purpose. It's important that students know why they want to get into doing something. I think with so much that's around today for students, they're spoiled with choices. So the why is very, very important to ask. And third, I lead with empathy. But I also challenge them. It's not that, it's okay, fine, I want to just completely, totally understand you. I think true growth comes in when you're gently pushed out of your comfort zone. And if we look back at our times, I think we were also somebody who were nudged to be pushed out of a comfort zone, in fact, thrown at doing things. I think college counseling has a lot of role of mentorship embedded in it. And mentorship to me isn't about giving answers. It's about creating a space for students to explore, reflect, and own their choices. That's really, really important. Shifting the accountability compass on the student gives me immense joy.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something about pushing outside the comfort zone. Now, that begs the question in moments of uncertainty, whether it's visa issues or political shifts or student anxieties in general, what has kept you motivated and resilient as a leader at the Career Guidance Center?
What keeps me going in those moments is the student. When the external landscape feels really chaotic, which truly is today, especially when we just look at students who are 15 to 18 years of age, that age has a lot of hormonal changes. That age has a lot of, how am I being perceived kind of an whole idea. And changing visa rules, unpredictable admission cycles, students' own growing anxiety. I remind myself that I have to be their anchor. If I'll falter, they'll falter. This is something I just don't say from a college counseling perspective. This I also say, being a parent. This I also say to everybody who's in the education community to understand it takes a village to raise the child. So just keep the student in the center when moments and when landscape is chaotic, is the VUCA world as we say it. And I keep redefining the VUCA world into a very different space. I think at this moment, what's really critical for us to bring in is resilience. And for me, that point of resilience comes from a sense of responsibility, but also from a sense of belief. Belief that guidance is most valuable when things are uncertain. It's easy to advise students when the path is clear. It's much harder and far more meaningful to walk beside someone when the road disappears. So, while here is a student who's been dreaming to get into a particular university, and when you really dream about it, you're working for it since your grade 10, you've been working for it, you've been spending some 3, 4 years thinking that that's the dream college that I want to get into. And suddenly you realize the bubble is busted and it's your end year of school. And now, when things are really changing, where you are at that particular point in time, we have a huge team for career counseling, college counseling at Shiv Nadar School. And we've built a culture where we share that pressure. Sometimes, when you get and work with students, you also kind of emotionally get connected with them. So it's also the point when you start sharing that pressure with your team, seek for their support and celebrate the smallest wins that we have as a team, whether it's a student finally getting clarity or just feeling a scene. Your class of the class, as I keep saying, always is very clear where they want to get to. It's your mass of the class, and sometimes the mass of the class, some of the students in there are not even visible to many. So just the fact that we are able to see them, we are able to hear them, we are able to listen them, those are moments that refill my energy. Uncertainty, honest, has never scared any one of us at Shiv Nadar School. In fact, I think as an institution, we've learned that it often leads to growth for the student and for us as mentors as well.
Absolutely. And I think from what you mentioned, you believe in a very student centric approach, as it should be. But how do you define success for a student beyond the academic achievement or university rankings?
Oh, when the whole world, and in fact, let me tell you, it's today, it's always, no matter how much myth we want to bust around rankings, etc., but students and parents do get driven by it. You can feel celebrated in a smaller place or get lost in a bigger place. So you have to define really your true fit element of where do you see your strength. So we have a matrix there where we say that there are many components to, and I keep sharing that in many forums, at many panel discussions that I go to, that there are a number of quotients that define you for where do you really see yourself fitting in. So it's also not just the intelligence quotient, it's your emotional quotient, it's your cultural quotient, your social quotient, and these days the even more relevant technical quotient. There are many factors that lead you into saying that while rankings are critical, while rankings are important, colleges and universities are looking at new age courses. Students and parents are looking at many other things. When we read the World Economic Forum skill report of 2025, the skills that they actually look at of what the students would be needing today, when a student today is in grade 9 or 10 or 11 and they'll join the workforce in 2030, 35, if we look at it, it's more the skills that we need to look at that are really relevant. So the whole idea about giving them a purview of what universities truly are, what's the experience of it. We also try to break a lot of barriers by having connections with our alumni, for them coming back, talking to our existing students, telling them how they feel celebrated in universities that they've gone to, and they've resonated and, kind of made an impact. So it's the whole approach is again twofold. It's the experience and the impact. While those are two very important factors, the other is also the capability and the copability. While rankings might sound very fancy, but the fact is, do I have the ability to cope up with that environment of where I'm trying to really get into? So, A, it's the course choice. B, it's the choice of the environment. C, am I being totally agile and adaptable to where I want to get to? And am I understanding the whole purpose of how I'm going to fit truly into that space and make an impact? When I move out of becoming an alumna of that particular institution, I'm also thinking about giving back. So, a lot of things around those aspects make it a whole relevant conversation to say that how do I eliminate or how do I strengthen the college list that I'm further looking at?
Yes, thank you for that. So, we know how fast visa regulations are changing, and and there's also shift in technology that we have to keep matching up. Now, what proactive steps like scenario based counseling or virtual expert workshops or policy briefings, do you take to keep students ahead of the curve?
At Shiv Nadar School, particularly, career counseling, we take it more as a science. It's not something that you get into year 12 to say, okay, fine, I need to visit my college counselor because I'm looking for a university course or a college to get into. We work with the student right from grade 9 to keep them updated with what's happening in the change in the landscape of higher education. And for that, for us, it even gets more relevant to read that for us as well before we share or send that, right? So we have a very, very clear approach to it. It's information and interpretation, right? One is that today you'll agree with me that you have these various platforms that give you information, right? And it's very easy, and students are naive. It's very easy for students and parents to believe what information is being given it. Is that information being interpreted in the right way? So, what we do at Shiv Nadar School is that we are in touch with the officials, from the USIEF. We also read up a lot on what's posted on the US Embassy portals. We are also in touch with people in the landscape of higher education, especially the university folks. And let me tell you, they really collaborate very well. So, the whole idea is also co creating this space which is very non judgmental and non threatening. We do a lot of one-on-one counseling with our students. So suppose there's something that we can see much coming right now, right, with the geopolitical situation around the world, what we try to do is we say, well, you have a plan A that's there, but a plan B and a plan C is equally important. And your choice of your plan B and plan C should be from a point that in case you have to go to those universities, you're as happy to get in and go as much as you were happy to go in for the plan A. So we do a lot of workshop style sessions with our parents and students to keep them abreast. Also the fact that sometimes, as I said, there are different kind of learners, there are different kind of, your diverse set of parent community. So we also do keep sharing with them a lot of newsletters, a lot of alerts, right, in terms of messaging via emails, etc. So we just try to give the information, interpret it in the right way, and ensure that children are also, it's breaking it down for them in an easier way for them to comprehend it in a more positive tone, which leads to less anxiety, a more receptive space for them to believe in that world largely is a very nice place and the whole world is waiting for them to make that difference.
Absolutely. And as you said, inclusivity, branching off from that, what do you think are the best ways to make inclusive students with learning disabilities or disabilities in general for the future of college?
In our times, I don't think we really understood inclusion. But when today I interact with parents and students, I feel that, a lot of parents also should understand the true meaning of what inclusivity means. Inclusivity actually begins with acceptance. The whole fact at Career Guidance Center at Shiv Nadar School, we believe that inclusion, of course, you have to be compliant, but it goes beyond compliance sometimes. Our role is just not to help students find universities that accommodate their needs, but ones that truly understand them, the one that truly affirms and empowers them to thrive. Our approach is very clear. We have a team at school which also works very closely with making that environment inclusive. So we have individualized education plans. We do something called coffee mornings with our parents so that they don't feel that they're at any less as an opportunity than regular students on campus. We try to do a session on something called busting the myths with them. While the whole world is available to children, there's also a set of areas and avenues and a lot of choices that's available to these set of students as well. What we try to do with them is we try to shortlist universities with a sense of purpose, making them understand that, while the academic fit is relevant, but there's a whole lot of fit about, understanding what kind of culture will be there in that particular university, which will accommodate those kind of students on their campus. We also try to align and sit down with the parents and students of such, who are applying to universities. We try to do like a pre-application engagement with them, if they want to apply to Indian universities, global universities, how are there are different paths of inclusivity that are available, and they can use and look at those. There are certain certificates that can be done. So we also very, very clear that we really want to help our students with that. And trust me, over the years, our students have really gone to some phenomenal places. They're making a whole impact there. They've made done projects which the universities are raving about. And also we also bring those students back on our campus to talk to other students. So that's very, very important. I think it's a whole circle that we try to close when we are working with these students, and it's a joyful experience.
I think there's an important part about studying abroad besides the obvious things that, that we can learn from. But creative financial planning is a very important part of studying abroad. So, what steps do you recommend, such as engaging in early scholarship hunts or education loans with flexible repayment for students and parents who are, trying to manage these increasing burdens? What would you recommend?
Financial planning to me is not the last mile conversation at all. It's a conversation that needs to begin way early. In fact, one of our first few meetings when we start decoding the entire college counseling process and the whole design of how we want to integrate things backward, the whole fact that how exit plans need to be designed for students, financial conversation becomes an integral part at the Career Guidance Center office. If education, especially abroad, has become a layered challenge. It's layered in many ways, right? And it needs a certain kind of a strategy. Students today are aspiring because the world's become fluid. A lot of things are, there on the media. So everything seems very aspirational, approachable. But when you really get down to see and decode it for a grade 9 or a grade 10 student, you have to really break it down for them to say that, well, exploration in ninth and 10th is really great, but then the journey and the onset of elimination needs to start mid grade 10, and by end of year 11 that elimination is done, and you're really strategizing and being very crisp with what you're looking at. So what really works with all us is mapping certain set of students who are very keen for scholarships and tap them early. And when we do that is we try to look at some niche scholarships that are available there, and then align students activities and engagements along with that. So again, there's a whole strategy around how do you want to really plan that, and that minute and granular planning needs to start from grade 10. So we look at it from that perspective. I also have to bust a myth here with you that scholarship is not only meant for toppers. Right? They're often also, if you align scholarships and a students have identified their true purpose, then alignment marrying purpose can lead them into some great scholarship. Also identifying, is it a first generation learner on, who's looking at, because you have your first generation learners on campus, there are enough things that are there available for them. There are children who've done some amazing capstone projects while in school and making an impact in the community by large. There are this whole set of things that are available for students there as well. And also when you're looking at scholarships, and of course that's one aspect, then there's funding education largely is also sometimes about not just scholarships, but it's also about, okay, I'm really aspiring to go study abroad, I will want to take a certain kind of loan and I'll repay that. But again, it sounds very easy when you're in your own comfortable space in your own country to say I'll pay that loan. But when you get there, when you have to manage your studies along with thinking that, oh my God, I have a financial burden to look at as well, it gets difficult. So please help decode. So we do speak and have conversations with our students around that. There's a whole flexibility around loan payment, etc. also. So we do speak to students, and especially first we orient parents around it. And then we, if need be, then we speak to the student as well as on that. Also when we look at mapping our students for all of this, what happens with students is they're just looking at, oh, I've got my college admission, when I've arrived everything is sorted. And I always tell them, when you're looking at scholarships, when you're looking at loans, when you're looking at how, when you think, especially think about studying abroad, how a dollar rate can fluctuate, etc. You also have to look that it's an year after year kind of an understanding. So it's just not admission to arrival. It's also about the fact that you, for the 4 years that you're looking at studying, you're understanding what scholarship will mean to you every single year, what loan payment will mean to you every single year. So all of this is critical to us at Shiv Nadar School, and also we create awareness around it through a certain sense of design thinking, to a certain sense of growth mindset, so that the common language is interpreted by the students and the parents and also the educators on campus in an easier way.
Yes. Thank you. So, when we speak about mindset, mental health plays a very important role in the well being of these students, often when they're about to be pushed from one side to another, especially in that particular phase of their lives. Now, could you share how CGC collaborates with in house or external mental health professionals to better prepare these students emotionally for living abroad?
Very important factor. For us at Shiv Nadar School, and especially the Career Guidance Center, when we are catering to a certain set of students who are used to a lot of a Blinkit and a Zomato, everything like an instant gratification kind of a generation. It's a Maggie noodle generation, right? Everything just kind of once it's done with, and you're everything is just at a click of a button, etc. When you get into another space, especially another country where the whole environment is very different, I often ask this question to parents, and I'm working on something called the college ready curriculum at school, where in the month of October, November, we have like a session with the parents and students on how college ready my child is. Here, if a child, while they're at home, they're in their own comfort zone, it sometimes gets very difficult for them to manage their own emotions. Leave aside when they're going into another country where they have to manage their own academics, their own personal well being, their own finances, their own looking after their own food, etc. It gets really difficult. There's something called muscle memory, and I often talk about it with my parents and students. Managing and first understanding and acknowledging that I feel a certain way is very important. And what do I do once I acknowledge it? And after that, what am I doing to emerge as a better version of myself? What's work in progress and in practice? For parents, let me tell you, mental health should not be considered as an afterthought. When the child's gone to a particular college, you've ticked the checkbox to say this is what the five colleges that we're looking at, and wow, my child made it to all the five colleges, then you've lost the plot totally. The fact that it's a key pillar. A student may find the perfect academic program, but if the emotional scaffolding around them is weak, when they're actually out there, it can really get overwhelming. While I said that we have a department at Shiv Nadar School which looks after the whole inclusivity aspect, we work very, very closely with our emotional, social, and behavioral counseling team. We have a team on campus that works with students, not just while they're headed to college, right from they step into school, etc. And high school gets even more critical, as I'm going to reiterate the fact that 9 to 12 hormones are jumping and pumping, things are happening. So a lot of the support. We do a lot of coffee morning meets with our parents and students. We have on counseling campus services where our experts share with them. Our students have a very non-judgmental space and they come and seek a lot of guidance. We also have our students, I seek and extract a lot from my alumni. There are students who've been struggling with their emotions in school but have settled beautifully well in colleges and universities. Those students come back and we have them connect with these students, so they do kind of find that clear thing that if he could do it or she could do it, I'll also be able to do it. And also when we're looking at mapping colleges for our students, we're also looking at the fact that while they're choosing a particular college, does that college have some kind of mentorship, assistance, some kind of a space where those students will find their own voice, which can be their non judgmental space there at that particular campus. These days, especially post COVID, the mental health well being aspect has become the most integral part. The World Economic Forum is also really talking about it. There's this whole wellness infrastructure in universities and university campuses. So we ensure that students are aware about that. And also the fact that I always tell my students that find your coping mechanism, right? Figure out a hobby that you pursue, something that in terms of if you're feeling that you want to react to a particular thing, or you're getting really overburdened and overwhelmed about something, is there a hobby or something that you would wish to pursue? So it's not again the last mile conversation, it's a conversation that we keep having with them. We tell them to embrace emotions, understand emotions, accept that there might be some gap, and acknowledge the fact that there is some work that needs to be done. And also, as college counselor, we also let them see our vulnerabilities. We are not perfect humans ourselves. So they feel very comfortable with the fact that, okay, neither my college counselor is perfect nor am I perfect. So it isn't the perfect world, but we all have to find our own pieces to fit into this world in our own ways. So I think we're trying the little bit that we can in our own capacity.
Absolutely. And as you spoke about the importance of planning and understanding that nothing should be left to the last mile logistics, now for academically strong students torn between top Indian and global universities, how does CGC help them in building decision frameworks that factor in not just rankings, but research prospects, mentorship, quality, employability, and most importantly, future mobility?
This question is like a question that comes almost every second day, about the fact that we know that students these days getting a certain score, and they're bright, they're academically bright, students are capable. But if I have to really decode this answer from a lens of a college counselor, I will decode this: keep aside capability. I think it's about clarity. We try to get a shift from the rankings based mindset to values and outcomes driven decision making framework. So as you talked about, mobility, if you talked about, what is it going to be when I'm going to finish my degree, when am I going to really think about getting into, right? Things like that. So the whole shift in mindset starts to happen. Every student is different. There are some students who are more driven in research, right? STEM based research programs. There are students who are really wanting to look at the whole idea about social work. There's a whole lot of sort of students who are thinking about total about art and design. Then there are whole students about who believe the fact that finance is the next big thing. So what we try to do is we try to tell them to create their own personalized decision matrices, to see that what is it that I'm trying to fit myself into. Factors like, will I get enough research opportunities in a particular campus? Will I get interdisciplinary avenues to explore? Like today I might see that I might want to do a particular thing, and it might shift, it might change another year down the line. Will I have the choice to explore that too? Also, the class size. As I said, every learner is different. So when you have to do it, you have to, for every child, the matrix that they're going to design is going to be very different. As I say, career counseling is a science. It's not just taking the checkbox in each space. So for academically bright student, you have to really sit down to understand what's their driving force. Is it, they are students who are, motivated themselves. They're students who will get the whole ability to get their grades because they've learned the art to translate that. But truly, what are they really looking at is something that we really work very closely with. How much of a university is able to give them a research based on academic alignment to what they're truly looking at and what are they learning. So I think that's really important. Another aspect that I keep telling them, that the world tomorrow is about transferable skills. While we are living in a world which is really ever changing, but the fact their whole ability to network themselves, their whole ability to say that, do I have the ability to kind of go ahead, network with people, join different clubs, different societies, create or co-create my own space there, enrich myself with the experience that I'm wanting to get into. Also the fact that, how am I also making an impact in the particular space that I'm going to? They're goodwill ambassadors of Shiv Nadar School, going into another institution which has a name in itself. How are they really taking that legacy ahead to say that I've learned the art to make an impact? So I think when I look at all of that, it's a jigsaw puzzle where when you connect those dots and they fit in, you will find yourself employable. You will find yourself agile and adaptable to say that, okay, let a challenge come on to me. And I'm prepared. I've prepared myself financially. I've prepared myself emotionally. I know that the world out there, I'll be able to network. I'll be able to create an impact. I'll be able to make a difference to the world in my own little capacity and space.
Yes, and just to branch off from that, especially in the Indian setting, there is this very ubiquitous feeling that students who are extremely academically bright are put on a certain pedestal. But there might also be a lot of students who are bright in non conventional ways. Now, how do you recognize that in students?
Brilliant question. because today when we deal with students, and I've been doing this for a decade and more now, especially college counseling, I've learned that for a college counselor, one skill that a college counselor should have is observation. You will have a perfect child who will walk into your office to tell you this is perfect, my grades are here, and everything, I'm taking the checkbox, everything is really done. You have to co-create different kind of settings for these students. You have to give them different kind of opportunities, especially year 9 and 10. Suppose there's a student who is really brilliant in art and design, there's a student who's really brilliant in sports. Normally sports students land up doing very well academically also, but students who are brilliant in art and design, are they create and creativity wise they're really there. But if you try to put them in certain structure, they'll be like, well, I don't really understand this, I can't figure this out. So as a college counselor, you have to give them opportunities, give them a lot of project work, give them a lot of leadership positions, help them feel celebrated for what they show their strengths in. And let me tell you, school is a space where you have enough opportunities for students to shine in those spaces. The fact that you can also tie up with universities, and these days while you integrate things backwards, you realize that there are a lot of opportunities for summer schools, a lot of challenges, open challenges, etc. And such students, if given that opportunity, will do very well. But if I have to just look at stepping back to say how do we recognize these set of students, is we work with different curriculums in school, right? And different curriculums, your IGCSE or IB and your national curriculum, has different kind of opportunities at different times in the year. It has different projects that happen in the different time of the year, are different. We also have something called the outbound learning excursions that we have for our students. So with these things, we try to also recognize a student's strengths. That's one way we do it. The second is we have a curriculum which we follow at Shiv Nadar School, through which when we are going inside classrooms, we're engaging with students, we're able to identify or scholastic, what are their achievements, and co-scholastic, what are their achievements. The third important way to recognize is that we are regularly in touch with their educators for us to understand the finer nuances about which academic subject, which non-academic subject, what kind of responses are coming in what way, for us to embed that while we are making a journey of a student and mapping it from year 9 onwards for our students at school. So while we integrate those, when you integrate these, you fine tune them, and when they're making their choices, that's the first step in year 10 about the choices of subjects that they make in year 11 and 12. When you put this in the jigsaw puzzle, you're able to eliminate a lot of things. And the similar thing when they come into year 11 end, and where they're shortlisting colleges and narrow down their subjects, you're able to figure out the course mapping very, very well. So it's not very difficult. It's just about seeing that one child's organic evolution from 9 to 12, observing them, engaging with their educators, ensuring that you're having conversation with parents, giving them opportunities, identifying their strengths, accepting their weaknesses. The world is their oyster.
Absolutely. And my last question for us is, what are your final words of advice or hope for students and parents who are not necessarily so clear about their journey ahead, but who just need a pat on the back or just a bit of strength to find clarity through this process of entering the global education worlds and college worlds?
Whenever I speak to my parents and students, and if they listen to this podcast, they'll be like, okay, well, we're hearing ma'am again. But I always tell them that wherever you're going, you're not going there to blend in, you're going there to belong. So the whole idea that I will make an impact and make a difference, right? But when a student is not clear and you step back, this is what I tell them when they're ready for college. It starts with the fact that how comfortable are they in their own skin. That's the first idea. The minute we understand the child's comfortable in their own skin is when the journey of exploration begins. So, for a child, exploring is very important. Getting out of their comfort zone is very important. I will also say that having a certain set of discipline is very important. Ninth and 10th, if I have to term it down, and it's about choices and habits. So, if a parent can boil down the ninth and 10th into just two terms of choices and habits, 11th and 12th will be beautiful. And choices can be further broken down to the fact that you don't have to do the tick check box of saying that, okay, let me do a community service, let me do sports, let me do theater, let me do art, let me do language, let me do numeracy. The fact that exploration is important, but understand your own child's strength and then start on the exploration journey. So 10th and ninth and 10th about exploration, choices and habits. 11th is about elimination, what I don't want to do. And the minute you step onto the fact of what you don't want to do, you're getting closer to the fact of what I wish to do and I think I should be going ahead and doing. Shifting that accountability compass on the student, while as a parent and an educator, you are next to the driving seat, but the child is driving. But you still know that where to put that brake, where to accelerate more. So that is important. But the whole thing about the fact that accountability shifts to the student has to come into year 11th and 12th. So my only submission to parents and students and educators is the fact that dining table conversations at home need to change when your child steps into ninth. From 9 to 12th, it has to be somewhere around things that your child's interested in, the habit of reading, some simple things about reading the newspaper, the ability to network with people, the fact that when is it that my opinion is not required, the whole ability to keep quiet, the ability to also the fact that I have the ability to listen to somebody fully before I give an opinion to, say something. I think those are those finer things that are really important, which will make a student college ready. If I have to really end this podcast, I'll end it with with redefining VUCA, which I do every time. We always say it's volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, and complex. I will say that give your child for V vision, celebrate your child's U uniqueness, make your child's capable from C, but also ensure that you're defining the child's capability skills. And A is adaptability and agility. I'm telling you, it's a joyful journey. It's beautiful to engage with students. And there's nothing more gratifying than that, to see them reach meaningful places and meaningful points.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful and insightful note to end this conversation on. That was Nitina Chopra offering not just expert guidance, but a deep human perspective on what it means to support students in a world that's constantly evolving. Thank you for listening to the EdexLive podcast by the New Indian Express. If you'd like more educational information highlighting future education paths, or just an inspiring story to lift your spirits, please don't forget to subscribe to the EdexLive podcast exclusively on EdexLive.com.